last left our adventurers, they had just defeated Cheeks' goons, and Teleri had run off following Wolfie's death. While the rest of the group is going through the bodies, looking for valuables, Teleri arrives back at the inn. Hrod is standing behind the bar, and Teleri climbs up on a stool to speak with him. She tells him that Wolfie is dead, to which he responds in his usual manner by offering her a drink. Teleri declines, but puts her retainer from Sabat on the bar, asking Hrod to return it to him. She also tells him about the gnome armorsmith from whom she had commissioned armor for Wolfie, telling Hrod to cancel the order and use the money for Billy's education. Teleri then leaves, heading straight for the gates out of the city. She approaches the smallest guard, a halfling, who seems new on the job. He lets her leave, and Teleri heads directly north, towards the Elfendar forest. By this time, the rest of the group has arrived at the inn. Hrod tells them that Teleri had been there, but left, leaving the money from Sabat, as well as telling him to take the money from the armor. Figuring that stumbling around in the dark after such a difficult fight may not be the best idea, the group agrees to look for her in the morning. Before going to bed, Cal cremates Wolfie in the backyard of the inn, and Alexandra says a few words for the fallen wolf. Hrod offers them a small cask to store Wolfie's ashes in. Meanwhile, Teleri is continuing her march away from the city, becoming exhausted but not stopping. When she gets to the Roaring Run, she sees another phalanx bridge with a gnome conducting a tiny little orchestra. She pays the 1 silver toll and continues to the woods, which are now in sight. In desperate need of rest, Teleri heads to one of the quieter groves and goes to sleep. Back in Izard, when they get up, Celebri and Alexandra go into the city to find any news on Teleri, while Torrin and Cal stay at the inn, appraising the loot that they took from the previous night. Heading to the gates first, the two find a sleepy half-elf guard and ask him if he saw Teleri pass through. The half-elf says he did not, but if they pay the 15 gold fee, they can see the logbook, which would have it recorded. They refuse to pay, so he lowers the price to 10 and then 5 gold, but they still walk away. Celebrian and Alexandra then decide to look for the urban druids to see if they know anything. They find an elven druid doing a little soothsaying in the market and ask him about Teleri. He says that he does know her, but that he hasn't seen her since the funeral yesterday for one of the other druids. When they explain that Wolfie died, he tells them that Teleri would have left the city, likely heading to the nearest woods in order to commune with nature. With his new information in tow, the pair head back to the inn. When they arrive, they find Cal and Torrin in a tense silence. When Torrin sees them, however, he accuses Cal of stealing a ring from the pile of items. Cal says it is not important, just a sigil ring that he recognized, and that should be kept quiet. He quickly changes the subject to what Celebrian and Alexandra found out. When they explain that Teleri would have gone to the nearest woods, the group decides to quickly sell off the items they took from Cheeks' thugs and set out immediately. Outside the city, Cal casts Regal Procession, and the group mounts up, making far better time than Teleri did. When they get to the bridge over the Roaring Run, they see a woman playing chess with a raven. They pay the 1 silver toll and ride across, hearing the woman curse behind them as the raven starts winning. Once in the woods, they head for one of the large druid groves, hoping to find Teleri. Along the way, they hear music, the sound of a flute. After a brief discussion, Cal heads in the direction of the music, and the others reluctantly follow. In the grove, they can see a satyr lounging on a rock and playing on a silver flute. Cal greets him, and he stops playing, takes a drink, and asks what they are doing here. Cal tells him they are looking for a small blue Eldris. The satyr says he has not seen her in years. He invites the group to take a drink and talk. When they get off their horses, the satyr introduces himself as Titiros, a bard of some renown. He says he traveled with Teleri years ago. Cal tells Titiros about Wolfie's passing, and how Teleri ran off afterwards. After a bit of discussion, and Titiros unsuccessfully hitting on Celebrian, the satyr agrees to guide them around the woods to try to find Teleri, though he points out that the forest is quite large. As they set out, the satyr plays an Ashcal song on his flute, which Celebrian seems quite appreciative of. While Titiros would prefer to pause at every grove along the way, Cal forces him to keep going, as they are on a bit of a schedule. The satyr invites Celebrian to walk beside him for a while, taking song requests and acting quite courteous. Once it begins to get dark, Titiros recommends that they make camp at a nearby wandering pine. When they get there, he pulls out his bottle of wine again, pouring some for himself and Celebrian, though the rest decline. He sits and listens to their stories of adventures, drinking all the while with the elf. Watches are set for the night, Torrin going first, then Alexandra, then Titiros. Before going to sleep, Cal casts Greater Alarm on their campsite. During the first watch, Torrin hears soft footsteps and sniffing, and then everyone hears a bell going off as something trips the spell. A Varag can be seen peeking through the bushes, but he quickly runs off. Everyone save Torrin goes back to sleep, and the watches continue uneventfully, with Titiros quietly playing during his shift. In the morning, the group wakes up to the smell of bacon and eggs being cooked by Titiros. They set out again, moving north along the coast. Titiros suggests numerous breaks from their search, and this time they all seem like good ideas to the group. During one of these breaks, a chipmunk runs up to Titiros, trying to deliver a covert message. Satyrs, however, are not subtle. He calls out to Teleri, who sent the rodent, telling her to come out. She doesn't, but now that the group knows that she's nearby, they quickly spot her, sitting in a tree. Teleri wants to know what the group is doing here. Cal says that they were looking for her, and have brought Wolfie's cremated remains. Even this won't tempt her out of the tree, however, and Celebrian asks why she is so upset with them. Teleri then goes over all the things she views as problems and flaws in what has happened since they came to Izard, culminating in Wolfie's death. She's also mad at the group's reaction to her attacks on the Dwarven cleric. The others point out that she did not tell them what she was doing, so they didn't know how to react. Teleri asks why she should rejoin them, so Cal reminds the Eldress of the necromancer that she wants to track down, and how they have to stop the crazed storm elemental. Tauren chooses this moment to tell the group of his task to seek out the Daga Sanctuary, where the meteor fell. Finally, Cal gives Teleri an ultimatum: either climb down and rejoin them, or stay here in the woods. She says that she wants no more cities and better plans, but comes down from the tree. She says that she will need a day to commune with nature before they leave, so the group heads to a nearby pair of groves, Teleri on her own, and the rest in the other. And this is where we have left off. So, what will Teleri's new companion be? Where will the group go next? How many pieces will Titiros be ripped into when the charm on Celebrian wears off? Find out next time on the Saga of Wounds to Cal's Chest.
This has been a saga of wizardly penetration, as you may have already guessed. And I wrote this song to express my admiration for all of the wounds to Cal's chest.